Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be looking at some interesting information coming out of the MCU, and that is that Doctor Strange 2, which has been directorless since Scott Derrickson decided to step away due to creative differences, has been filled by Sam Raimi. Now it's a I like the decision, but there are reasons behind it that I think are not necessarily evident by what Disney is saying. So let's kind of go through this a little bit and go through kind of the let's backtrack a little bit and just kind of recap what the problems that have been happening with this film. Now, early on in the film's production, basically they were touting this as kind of the MCU's first horror movie. And it was going to have horror elements. It was going to be darker than the first Doctor Strange film. And we were going to see kind of a different type of take on how the multiverse and stuff works. We did see a little bit of different universes and stuff like the Dark Dimension in the first Doctor Strange, but this is a bit different. Where he's going to be jumping dimensions and things like that, or at least that's the way it was made to seem. So Scott Derrickson comes out at Comic-Con and says, "Yep, this is going to be the first horror movie." Everybody's really excited because this kind of looks like Marvel is experimenting a little bit instead of staying to their kind of confined formula that they now have. And so this was actually one that I was a bit excited about. This was also supposed to tie into a Disney Plus series, WandaVision, which I think is set to premiere at some point later this year, although I could be wrong about that. They might have switched some things because of all the digital releases that are going on because of the coronavirus thing. So because of the way that it was touted, a lot of people thought this was going to be, I don't think everybody thought this was going to be, an actual horror film. I think that's a bit much, but I think that a lot of people were expecting something pretty decent coming out of Scott Derrickson, seeing as how he had a horror background, and the first Doctor Strange film was actually pretty good. I do like that movie. Now, moving forward, Scott Derrickson then, some months later, dropped out and cited creative differences. And here's the thing when it comes to dissecting that little split there between him and the studio is that you don't necessarily know the full story, and I don't know if we ever will unless you get like a Sony email hack or something like that comes out of Disney at some point. And maybe that's in it. Because basically he kind of insinuates that they lied to him about some things that they were going to allow him to do with the film. And Disney kind of really doesn't want an actual horror film because they don't want to go away from the adolescent market that they kind of cater to. And I can understand that from a business decision, but at the same time, you have to vary these movies at some point. Like I said, I think that if you incorporate a decent amount of horror elements but don't go too hardcore with it, you can still stay within your universe. There's nothing wrong with it. So he split. Then we had started having rumors that Sam Raimi was in talks to direct, and a lot of people just kind of wrote it off because Sam Raimi's been in talks to direct about 1,000,000 things over the past 10 years, and 90% of them we never hear about again. This one, however, we did, and he has been hired to direct the film. Now, this, I think, shows an amount of desperation, because if I remember correctly, Scott Derrickson exited this film not long after Comic-Con. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 months after Comic-Con he exited. So the pre-production process was already well underway. I'm assuming if Raimi's coming back on, they're going to have to rewrite the script because he's probably going to demand that, or at least a very significant revision. And he's probably going to be on the writing staff as well because it's Sam Raimi. But at the same time, I don't mind the pick, but they needed a veteran guy, and this is why this is odd to me, is because Marvel doesn't hire seasoned directors. And I've said this before. There was an interview with Ridley Scott, and he hit it right on the nose, which was they asked him if he would ever be considered directing a superhero film, and he said, I would consider doing it, but the thing is they would never hire me. And the reason why they would never hire me is because A, my price tag is too high, and B, they're not going to be able to push me around because Ridley Scott's a veteran director. He knows how to handle a set. He knows how to handle producers and other people. And if they try and do that, he's just going to say screw you and leave. Whereas a younger director who needs to kind of build up their filmography and is getting a chance to make a big budget film like that is not going to fight the studio as much as somebody who is already a journeyman or a veteran in the industry. So a lot of the times they don't hire those people. Scott Derrickson is kind of a journeyman, which is when he did the original one in 2016, he wasn't as much of one. So I understand that, and then they brought him back for the sequel, kind of like James Gunn. You bring him in for Guardians of the Galaxy. People know him for kind of a few different things there, like Slither, but then you bring him in for that, and he gets to be a big name. So that's kind of their MO. They really don't hire a lot of directors that are very, very well known. They don't hire the Spielbergs and the Scotts and the Lucases, people like that. So for them to go to Sam Raimi, who I would consider to be a veteran director and who has done superhero stuff before, means that they need to get this thing done. They are probably way behind schedule. Like I said, they're probably going to have to rewrite the script, so they're restarting from scratch on that. Most of the casting, I would imagine, is probably done. That's probably not anything that he needs to worry too much about, other than casting some new characters after they rewrite the script. So that actually might factor into it a little bit if they rewrite the script and kick a character out or put one in. You might have to shuffle actors a little bit, but aside from that, I think that should probably be all set. But it probably does set this production back months in order to do that. So that is something that I think Disney they needed to bite the bullet on it in order to keep to their schedule. And that's the other problem with the way that the Disney formula kind of works with Marvel, is that the films are spaced so closely together at this point that if one starts having production problems, it can bleed into the other, and then you can have a rushed production, which is a big problem. Again, Star Wars kind of had that too with Rise of Skywalker, where they had so many production issues, but they had to meet that Christmas release date, and that's why they basically got pushed almost to the nail to get that thing done. So it makes sense, but the thing is that the more they do it and the closer they space the films together, the more problems they're going to have in production. And there's more films that they are having production issues, obviously. Some of them because of the whole virus, but some of them also because of stuff like Doctor Strange, where you have people leaving the production. Shang-Chi was shut down because of the coronavirus concerns. I think Eternals finished filming and has most of its stuff together. I think they're still in the post-production stage, so I think they're fine. But a lot of the future films are going to be impacted by this by pushing back dates, so they're going to have to keep shuffling dates for the next probably few months in order to try and get everything put together. Now, to the actual Raimi choice itself, well, how do I feel about him? I love the choice. Because he kind of fits that idea that they like. They like that comedy, and they like the actiony stuff, and then the story elements, which is really kind of what Sam Raimi has always been known for. He has a really good comedic mind. We've seen that with Ash vs. Evil Dead. We've seen it with the older Evil Dead films, even some parts of the Spider-Man films, except for 3. If he makes Peter Parker, I actually, given that it's Sam Raimi, I could see him poking fun at himself, like making a Spider-Man joke in there somewhere where it's you just see Peter Parker doing like a stupid dance on like a meme or something. I could see that happening, and that would probably be kind of funny. But he's worked with Marvel properties before, as everybody knows, so I mean, he knows how to handle a comic book movie, and I'm kind of interested to see what he's going to do with the character of Doctor Strange. So I'm not disappointed with the choice. I think it's a great choice. I think they should make more choices like that. Just let those directors go nuts and do whatever they want. Because those guys actually know what they're doing, unlike people like Ryan Johnson or younger people that kind of take the reins, like whoever directed Captain Marvel. I can't even remember their names at this point. But Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, why do I still remember those stupid names? And so I like the actual choice, and I think he's the right choice to helm that movie. I don't have any problems with it, but I think Disney's motives for hiring him were because they were pushed to the wall, and they knew they were gonna be crunched for time, no matter what they did, and they needed a veteran guy in there who could get the job done. So again, I hope that this opens the door for more veteran directors to get Marvel films, and I hope that Disney, doesn't fight back with Sam Raimi as much as they have with other directors, and just lets these people do their jobs. Again, studio intervention is generally a good thing with younger directors in some cases, but not all, but some, and studio intervention with older directors or directors that know what they're doing is probably not a good idea because it muddles the product. And like I said, I hope Disney takes a hands-off approach with Sam Raimi. If they don't, I could definitely see Sam Raimi leaving this production. He still has Evil Dead stuff that he's trying to get off the ground with a movie there. And he still has a bunch of other stuff that he's trying to get off the ground too, probably behind the scenes. He's still very much in the horror market, and he's still very much in contact with a lot of people. So I'm curious to see how this works out, but I want to know what you think. Do you like the choice of Sam Raimi? Do you think this was like how I think, that this was because Disney was kind of pushed to the wall on this production, or do you think that this was just they kind of just decided to cave and give Sam Raimi a movie? Put your opinions in the comments below, as usual. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?